He told me not to drink coffee. What do I do about this? So we have used caffeic acid, which is in coffee grounds, to make carbon quantum dots. And these caffeic acid molecules are recarbonized and they've been found to be neuroprotective. So this is all over the news. If you don't believe what I say, read this. All right. And Jyotish Kumar, again from IIT Roorkee, Pakri Gopinath's student, was responsible for this work. So we moved on to do a lot of work with caffeic acid. All right. When I was growing up in the 1970s and 1980s, again, permission to speak freely, and getting your name in a British tabloid was our dream. Okay. And there's something called page 3 in the British tabloid, which I won't get into. Or you always look at page 3 if you're a Jain. But we've got into these British tabloids. The Mirror, the Sun are now looking to get into German tabloids and French tabloids, Le Monde, Der Bild, etc. But Jyotish's work, so that over there on the right side, ignore the alpha male there in that photo. I'm the alpha male. Is Jyotish, right? He's become, forget the green card, he's on his way to citizenship. He can bypass the green card, all right, because he's kind of famous. So this is a shameless plug of our work. I am a biophysicist. Did I tell you that already? Maybe third time? Who was that? Who's keeping count? What are they doing? What are these carbon quantum dots doing at the alpha helix and beta sheet level? Right? So we're doing molecular dynamics simulations. I won't make you suffer with them. And we're doing a lot of biophysics. So circular dichroism, fluorescence, acid, kinetics, etc. to try and understand what carbon quantum dots, these engineered nanomaterials, are doing with biological interfaces. So this is still under review. I don't want to talk too much about it. Sampath sir, how much time do I have? 5 minutes more? 5 minutes? Okay. So beyond 5 minutes is when you start getting to the appetizer, as I said before. Okay, so supper through it, you'll get a nice appetite. You all know about microplastics, right? It's ubiquitous. It's omnipresent, right? So even when this laptop, this housing, when you throw it away in landfill due to air or water, it starts the plastic here. This is acrylonitrile butadiene styrene rubber, ABS rubber. I used to work in the General Electric company in Whitefield, and we were making this. It forms microplastics and it makes nanoplastics just by weathering. All right, and it's a nuisance. And yet, our knowledge about how these microplastics impact biological systems at the upstream level is rather anemic. We all know what they do in terms of clinical outputs. I'll come into that. But what are they doing at the protein level? That's what we want to know. So that within 30 minutes of a rat ingesting microplastics, it goes to the brain, right? It's found in lungs. So it's a societal problem. And you can see microplastics are in the ocean. These are called plastics rafts. The rich countries, what they do is they have a boatload of plastic and then they ship it to live in Indonesia because they need the money there, and then they just leave it there in the ocean, and then the damage is done. And people say, oh, polystyrene is bad, you're foamed up. It doesn't matter. It was there 50 years ago, and the damage is already done or it is ongoing. So just because it's banned doesn't mean you're done with it. Both microplastics and PFAS, which are called forever chemicals, are here to stay. All right. So what we have done is we have looked at how these plastics impact protein structures, and I won't belabor you through this, but it impacts the UV signatures of beta-lactoglobulin, a milk protein. We've used polystyrene, and we've bought it from a company, 25 nanometers in size. It's a polymer, so we don't have a molecular weight. We can only have a size and a density. So you can see that polystyrene nanoparticles, nanoplastics, impact the UV signature of beta-lactoglobulin, a milk protein. Beta-lactoglobulin binds retinol, and retinol and fatty acids, which are bound by beta-lactoglobulin, are important for neonatal brain development. You can also see that these microplastics impact the fluorescence signatures and CD signatures of the protein. They completely eliminate the alpha helix content of beta-lactoglobulin. So So you can see beta-lactam globulin in orange has a helix, very important. And as the microplastics are titrated in, within a density of 2 milligrams per milliliter, you have a total diminution of the helical content of beta-lactam globulin. And concomitantly, almost stoichiometrically, you have an increase in the beta sheet content, right? So there's a helix to sheet transformation. And if you remember the previous section, conversion of helix to beta sheet is associated with amyloidogenesis. It impacts the binding of the ligand. So in the black curve at the bottom is retinol, vitamin A binding to beta-lactoglobulin. When exposed to microplastics, you can see what happens. There's a compromise in the functionality of the protein. The ability of the protein to bind beta-lactoglobulin is compromised, and that will have impact on the human brain in neonates. Simply because the mom, if there's ingested microplastic, then in the lactating mammary gland, you will have release of these microplastics into the baby, and then you'll have plastics associated neuronal damage. This is the on rate. So you have retinol, you have beta-lactoglobulin coming on together. You have a very nice growth in fluorescence of retinol. In the presence of microplastics, that is the red curve, you see a decrease in the on rate. Again, functional compromise of beta-lactoglobulin with respect to its ability to bind retinol, vitamin A, when exposed to microplastics. You have an 8-fold decrease in the on rate, right? And from your general biochemistry, you'll see that retinol, the cis-trans isomerization is used in vision. It's very important. We want to again know what happens with respect to amyloid formation. So again, we're using Hennig-White lysozyme. Remember alpha helix to beta sheet in a non-amyloid forming protein. What about in an amyloid forming protein? Again, thioflavin T acid. So if you look at the top left, the black curve is where thioflavin T binds to Hennig-White lysozyme fibrils. Look what happens when those same Hennig-White lysozyme is exposed to microplastics. You have a faster fibril formation, right? So microplastics initiate fibril formation. Look at the CD signatures. At the bottom right, you have a decrease in alpha helix, and the red bar is an increase in alpha in beta sheet. In the presence of fibrils, you have a complete elimination of alpha helix. That's the third set over there, and only beta sheet formation. So again, these microplastics are pretty dangerous. We've used nanoplastics. Again, looking at the one model, I won't again belabor too long. The black curve at the top is the mobility of these worms with time, right? The red curve is when they were exposed to 2 millimolar paraquat. The worms get paralyzed. So 8 millimolar paraquat is toxic. But look at the cyans and the blue lines. At very low densities of plastics, the ingested plastics have the same effect as this neurotoxin paraquat, right? So this is in a worm model where we have shown that these plastics are toxic. Finally, we want to know what's happening at the helical segments and sheet segments. So we're collaborating with Dr. Vukovic to understand using molecular dynamics and docking what's happening. So very quickly, the top right, section B, the blue, solid blue bar, the first one is the retinol binding to beta-lactoglobulin, and look at the red bar, 2 bars away. The ability of this anthropogenically created polymer to bind to the protein is much stronger. You also have compromised retinol and beta-lactoglobulin distances in F, right? So microplastics, they're inserting into this protein and disrupting its ability to bind the natural ligand. This is our group, or parts of our group. The plastics work was done by the top 3. The Eric Villanueva talked about before, Sofia Delgado is at Yale University doing a PhD. That's pretty great because a lot of Hispanics, unfortunately, they're the first in their families to get even a bachelor's degree. So to go from UTEP all the way to Yale, which is an Ivy League, is pretty creditable. Jyoti Alava, Gabriela Enriquez, Shima Masudi Asik were doing the first part of this project, CQDs. I already talked about Jyotish, he's here somewhere up there. And then this was a graduation party. This is from Barbie.
Have any question? Any questions?
Well, I'll let you, yeah, I'll let Sagar read that.
Okay.
What? The secretary likes to get proof of my presence for reimbursement. So the job permission, I take a photo that I was here. But simply, it's, how about its stability part? How is yes, scale when it is in right. So very, very good question. These CQDs tend to aggregate because of their zeta potential or lack thereof. Yes. So we always have to sonicate them, freshly prepare and sonicate. They are also when in solution, they can keep getting chemically transformed, oxidized, etc. So we lyophilize it, make sure there's no moisture. And just before we measure DLS or zeta potential, we have to sonicate the solution. So this is a very important point. Oh, great, great. Maybe we can collaborate in the future.
It's
It's a new researcher, they want to do any research area. What are the benefits for research areas? Because new PhD scholar want to do some work.
Okay, the carbon quantum dots or plastics? Which one?
Or for us.
Okay, so one of the things is these carbon quantum dots, you need to make sure that they are not cytotoxic or in animal model. The reporter should only report the news, not make the news. Otherwise called yellow journalism or tabloid. So you have to make sure that these carbon quantum dots are not toxic. We being biochemists, then take it to a vertebrate blood-brain barrier model, right? Whether they can transgress the blood-brain barrier and they are neuroprotective over there. So we use a rodent model of paralysis and Parkinsonism. So I think, as a new researcher, again, for the students to, as Dr. Prasad was saying, read the literature, see what's out there. Carbon quantum dots are also used in signaling in environment as sensors for removing pollutants. So you can see what area you might be interested in, and then maybe talk to people in the field and then just start.
Thank you.
Sir, if you jump into the Ganga, you will learn swimming. Just kidding.
Nice talk and presentation, very important. So whatever the observing is chemistry. So you are missing the most of chemistry. Why it is not interactive part of that. So sometimes polymerization is going, sometimes it is depolymerization. So functional group, what is the main interaction between quantum dot with fiber? Yeah.
We are investigating at the secondary structure, tertiary structure, and using IR. What exactly, which functional groups in the carbon quantum dot with what amino acid residues in the protein? And we also have molecular dynamics simulations. What is it doing to the alpha helix? Right? So we are, I would say stay tuned.
Yes.
I can't tell you today, but this is gone up for review.
Okay.
So hopefully, published we will be able to tell. But the functional groups, what is the business end of the carbon quantum dot and how is it interfering in the soluble to toxic transformation is absolutely key because you can then make a second gen carbon quantum dot, which is more potent by focusing on those functional groups.
Because in biology, you can see number of functional groups.
Sure.
So amino acids, so alpha also, all the functional groups are there.
Yes.
This one is going to impact
Absolutely.
polymerize or depolymerize. So this
You have a very good point.
Thank you.
I surrender.
Anybody else? No question?
Thank you, sir.
Just I want to curiosity, can we add quantum dots to the available drugs?
Uh, so when we publish this caffeic acid paper, these journalists don't read the paper. They just want to sensationalize it. So they already said that in coffee, quantum dots are present. They ignored the fact that they hydrothermally synthesized them. Then they said there is a pill already in the coffee. So eventually you can add it to it itself is a drug in a sense. Or we can use the previously used cytosine nanoparticles to encapsulate a payload compared to carbon quantum dots because carbon is as a carbon core. You can't make a drug with it. They're actually using blood-brain penetrating precursors, acetylbenzene and caffeic acid to get a heads up in crossing the blood-brain barrier by retaining some of the functional groups that are necessary for the blood-brain barrier. So I would use actually nanoparticles, cytosine nanoparticles to encapsulate a payload, not necessarily carbon quantum dots, because it's the end all be all. This itself is a drug.
So I have a question. This is with regard to the use of quantum dots for mitigating paraquat-induced neuronal damage. So I'm interested to know what is the mechanism and will there be no interaction between the C dots and the pesticide?
Okay, so first of all, our carbon quantum dots, why not just use the raw material precursor? So there's a huge amount of sp2 hybridization that takes place on carbonization. So you have a lot of double bond and conjugation. That is critical for reactive oxygen species scavenging, right? Because one of the, is all these diseases are multifactorial. One of the factors is elevated levels of reactive oxygen species. So we have shown that these carbon quantum dots using DPPH assay can scavenge free radicals. How they interact with paraquat? Well, we've just done a test tube, there's no interaction. Paraquat is benign unless it goes into the mitochondria. That's where it does its damage. It does its damage to free radical efflux, and then carbon quantum dots being present scavenge those free radicals.
So there is no interaction
No.
between.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sal.
So, thank you for talking about carbon fiber drugs and engineered nanomaterials and its applications in biological field and field of medicine. You also spoke about how microplastics, nanoplastics impact proteins negatively. You made the session very interesting, sir, by sharing your research findings with all the audience. The most important thing was you spoke about the importance of coffee for Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Most of us are chai people here. So we'll keep this in mind. Thank you very much for making it very interesting to all of us, sir. And now let's break for lunch and we will join back by 1:30 sharp here, all of you. And the session will continue till the evening. Thank you very much.
CIR Research Center, Biochemical Sciences Division, CSIR National Chemical Laboratory, Pune. Dr. Syed's research at CSIR NCL is mainly emphasizes on the crucial role that microorganisms are currently playing and are likely to continue to play in future as microbial cell factories for the production of bio-based materials for the biotechnological use. He has described more than 17 novel microbial species from Indian ecosystem. These findings give a foundation for enlarging the current exploitation of the metabolic diversity and their industrial products. He has been awarded with various reputed visiting fellowship like Young International Scientist of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, Brazil Visiting Fellowship, CSIR Raman Research Fellowship to Germany, INSA Indo-Australia EMCR Fellowship, INSA Visiting Scientist to IISc Bangalore, AMI Professor D.N. Johri Award, NASI Scopus Young Scientist Award for Environmentally Sound Sustainable Development. To his credit, he has more than 145 papers, 12 patents, 2 technology has been transferred. He is serving as associate editor to International Microbiology and editorial board member for microbiological research. 7 students have successfully completed their PhD under his supervision, and another 8 students are currently working. On behalf of the organizing committee, I extend thanks for accepting our invitation to be the speaker of this session. Now I request Dr. Damodar to welcome the speaker with a bouquet. Now I request Dr. Syed to take over the session.
Good afternoon, all. It's very difficult to maintain the people in order to them after having a South Indian good lunch, right? So if people wonder that why biology people in engineering, right? See, nowadays, earlier people talk about only biology, later on comes interdisciplinary. Now it has the transdisciplinary. Without biology, chemistry, engineering, we cannot do any development of sustainable applications. See, here we are, since last 7 to 8 years, we are working on the bacterial cellulose. This is, whenever you talk about cellulose, majority people talk about the plant. The plant is the only source to produce the cellulose material. To look at the tragedy, when you want to extract the cellulose from the plant, you need to remove the lignin hemicellulose, right? The pre-treatment cost is much higher than the extraction of the cellulose. Then what are the alternative source? You look at the microbes. It is not a new thing. People are working on bacterial cellulose since last 4 decades. So what is the problem in this? Why it has not been commercialized? Look at the, how to approach it. We have attempted certain aspects in this one. Look at the, as I told, most of the abundant naturally occurring polymer, it is majorly comes from the plant. Look at the fibril structure. Earlier talk was the fibrils. You heard that quantum dot, how it helps to break down the fibrils. Here want to make the fibrils. Fibrils have the major role in the medical applications. Look at the size, 10 micrometer to 1 nanometer. As I told, the pre-treatment present more than 40% of the total processing cost for the cellulose. So for that, we need, when you talk about how long you depend on the plants, when you talk about sustainable, that SDG 14 goals, how to achieve that one. So we have, if you look at the microbial world, only 1% of microbes is known throughout the world. We don't know what 99% of microorganisms are doing in the environment. One way we can say that thanks to the COVID, which has given the boosting to the microbiologists, look at the other applications of the microorganisms. As I told, 40%. You look at the microbial cell, is not a new thing. People are exploring for the rayon fibers. If you look at the Raymond fabrics, they majorly use the cellulose material, which is originated from the plant. If you expect the need of the country, if you consider Indian population, if I want to produce that kind of fibers, look at how much plant I need to cut. So even in the 1886, it has discovered this bacterium called Acetobacter xylanus, which is a model organism to produce the cellulose material, which is in 100% purest form. There is no lignin, there is no hemicellulose. This approach is called bottom-up approach. When you put a liquid media for a fermentation in a static condition, the polymer goes on adding on the air-liquid interface. Why we need to look these bacterial cellulose? Look at the purity, 100% pure compared to the plant. Water holding capacity, 70% is the natural reported. In our material which we have discovered, it is holding more than 90% of water. This means that you can make any composite in combining any combination of the materials. Look at the application. Each and every sector is required this material. Wound dressing, bone scaffold, tissue engineering. People are making the organ on chip by using the biopolymer. Even the 3D printing, the ink which we use for to produce the artificial organs, they are using this biopolymer. Drug delivery system. Lot of things. Look at the nanofibrillar form. When you talk about plant cellulose, if you want to make the plant cellulose into nanofibrillar structure, you need to go for electrospinning. But in the bacterial system, this naturally produces in what we call nanofibrillar structure. The structure is coming from 10 to 50 nanometer in size. Pure form, highly crystalline. If you look at the crystallinity, it is more than 70% of crystalline. And it has a mechanical strength, and more important is the biocompatible. Look at the literature. Before we started work, we are looking for literature. What is known for the bacterial cellulose? Used for the own application, matrix for 3D bioprinting, enhanced osteogenic cell differentiation, roots for sustainable high yield. We look at the alternative to plastic. Even they are combining this pure cellulose to make art. Even the people are come out with the alternate leather. When you talk about now, people are coming out of vegan, right? Vegetable leather. And look at the energy storing. When Dr. B.L.V. Prasad was talking about storage of the energy, look, this system can be used for the energy storage system. Here, engineering component, no, biologists alone cannot make the material to make it as a storage. So what is the lacuna in this? Why the bacterial cellulose has not explored to the extent of the industrial requirement? Low production, genetic instability. You heard the genetic instability in the COVID, right? Every time it goes mutation, variants comes out. This is the biggest problem in the microbes. Even if you preserve the microorganisms in the lab, after certain time it goes on natural mutation. Once natural mutations happens, the strains what it was producing earlier, it may change the production ability. And the high production cost. Because if you ask anybody on the plant cellulose, can you produce the microbial cellulose in a ton? If I want to give in a 1 ton material from bacteria, it is very highly impossible, right? For that reason, you have to look at the application where the requirement is in a minimal form. In a medical application, you cannot apply kilograms of material on your own application. So what do we have to do? What is the alternative? Isolation of robustin. We call India as one of the mega biodiversity hotspots. If you look at how many new microorganisms have been reported, their application, we are only on the literature. Microbial, India is one of the mega biodiversity hotspots. But nobody looked into the microbial perspective because the microorganisms need to be sophisticated lab to isolate, identify. In a plant or animal kingdom, you can easily identify. Testing different culture condition, how to modify the culture condition to produce to the level what we needed. Then use low cost substrate for a fermentation process. We started in 2015, 14, 15, one of my PhD students. We want to, because we have very big polymer group in NCL, when we discuss with majority of the people work on the plant cellulose material, we thought, can we look for the microbes? So where to look those kind of? We collected all the fruit samples available in Pune or around the Maharashtra. We isolated certain organisms which produce the acetic acid, which is correlating to the bacterial cellulose production. Then we screened about 216 organisms. From that, we got only 5 organisms which produces the cellulose. If you look at in the test tube, that bottom-up approach, you can see the liquid is below and the cellulose pellicle is coming upper on the upper surface. And we identified, again belongs to the model organism which is known for the cellulose production, but the species is different. The Acetobacter xylonas, which is the model organism known for bacterial cellulose production. Here, this was later on renamed as a Comagotibacter. But look at xylonas is not there in our isolates. This is totally different species. Then we thought to characterize this material, but we are not interested in a culture. We are more interested on the biomaterial which it is producing. What are the property it has? We did the complete structural illustration because we want to pick the best producing organism with the best potential material application. All 5 stains have been subjected for the cellulose production. You look at the almost all structures look like similar one. Then we did, as I told, microfibrilla structure. These are naturally producing the fibrils. Look at this is the very typical property of the bacterial cellulose when it has a triangle shaped arrangement. And look at the crystallinity also. Some are less crystalline, some are highly crystalline. As I told, we are more interested in the materials, not on the culture. So we did all the material property to pick the best culture which has the best materials. As I told you, look at the stat. This is the one of the advantages that whenever you talk about the fermentation for any production, people talk about the shaking kind of fermentation. This is another interesting aspect of this culture is a static condition. You take it in this room, you can produce thousands of kg of bacterial cellulose material. Just put it in a flask, media, keep it, forget for 1 month, you can see the layers. This is a 1 month old static fermentation. Layers are go on adding on one above the above. And interesting aspect is that the media is 100% utilization. You don't find any liquid rest over in the flask. It is completely utilized. If it same thing we try, we want to see that whether shaking condition also helps to produce this kind of bacterial cellulose production. When you put the same culture for a shaking, you can see the bead formation happens and production differs. You can see the thickness of the sheet. It is as good as English kind of shape. It's almost 3 centimeters thick, that material. As usual in the microbiology lab, we need to standardize the process to produce the higher yield. We did all the carbons. Here in the bacterial cellulose, the interesting aspect is the carbon source. Whatever you change the carbon source, your yield goes on changing. So we did all the carbon source and see the glycerol. The media containing glycerol gives the best yield of 6.5 gram of dried cellulose. When you convert that cellulose into wet material, it is around 450 gram per liter, which is much higher than any reports. After that, we standardize their pH and we want to know how much glycerol concentration is the best for the optimum production. Then we did the complete fibrils. What are the fibril strength of those different carbon sources? There is no much difference in the fibrillar structure. There is a one unique property which we observed in the sorbitol. I will come to later that how this small observation lead to the another application of this material. These are the different carbon source, how they behave in the material property. Look at the glycerol and glucose crystallinity. The glycerol has given the highest crystalline material, which is of 80% of crystallinity. Then their section, how they are interlinked, arranged. You look at any biology, botany kind of, anybody has studied in the BSc botany, you know the phylum, xylem appearance. You might have seen that how the phylum, xylem appears in the plant. You look at the orbital appearance, the last corner of the image stem. That leads to one of the applications which I will explain in the next slide. Again, we did the beta analysis to know what is the surface area or pore size of those materials. Is there any carbon source differs the pore size, surface area? So again, the sorbitol appear to the best pore size for the filtration efficiency. Then thermogravity. Look at the why this bacterial cellulose withstand up to 350-degree temperature. You can n number of times you can autoclave at 121 degree. It never degrades, it never changes its material property. This is one of the advantages for the clinicians. When I want to apply this material, he can simply autoclave it, apply on the patient. It is a sterile condition. You don't need to pack it in a gamma irradiated kind of packages. Whenever you want, take in a beaker, autoclave it, simply apply it. So later on, we went for the glycerol. We use, as I told, analytical grade glycerol. And glycerol is one of the highest raw material available from the biodiesel industry. Nobody knows what to use that one. It is a raw glycerol, waste glycerol. When you take analytical grade glycerol, high media is costing 1 liter per around 500 to 600 rupees. When I ask the waste glycerol per liter, they are giving it in 10 rupees. It's a waste, there is no charge. Even if you ask for what is the cost, they will say that 10 to 15 rupees. So whenever you process development, it should be cost effective for the larger scale. We analyze the same, there is no much difference with the analytical grade as well as the crude glycerol. You can see one of the interesting is you can control the thickness of the material, how thick layer you needed, how thin layer you needed. Look at the first day, 4 days, 7 days, 10th day, 15 days. If you need a thicker material, you can keep it for a 15 days of incubation. And we want to see that whether this method is, whether anybody has reported for the highest yield, what we did, whatever literature reported, the best media have been reported for the production. We took those all composition, we put into for the glycerol with this culture to see that how it is behaving. So if you look at the glycerol containing media has shown the from 6.5 gram initially, we went to optimization, we went to around 11 grams of the dry material. You can look at we have demonstrated at 50 kg scale in the lab, given around say 20 by 20 feet lab, we demonstrated that we can produce about 50 kg of that material. So as I told, the cost calculation is very much important. We did the cost calculation as I calculated in the laboratory grade chemicals. We are producing dry material of 10 gram at rupees of 60 rupees. The highly pure cellulose material, which is a medical grade. We got an Indian patent has been granted on this process development. Next comes the application. Once we have a material, we can think of 10 number of applications. We started it since NCL is a chemistry lab. We thought, can we incorporate some of the chemical reactions by using this biological material? We started with the fluorination reactions. In organic chemistry, whenever the drugs, whatever the available drugs now, they want to fluorinate. By fluorination, you can enhance the bioavailability of the drug, enhance its efficacy, because nowadays almost all 30% of drugs are modifying into the fluorinated one. The second application, we went for the photothermal foam for the distillation of the wastewater. Then we have fabricated the bacterial cellulose for the dye removal from the dye contaminated areas. As I told, the fluorination is one of the, what you call challenging reactions in the organic chemistry. Whenever they want to fluorinate any available drugs or biological or bioentities, they use the TBAF, tetrabutyl ammonium fluoride, as a catalyst to convert the non-fluorinated into fluorinated molecule. TBAF is a very hygroscopic material. Within 10, if you look at within 10 seconds, it will become, 10 minutes, it will become liquid if you keep it in open air. So when you do the reactions with those catalysts, unspecific products are more because your catalyst is not available to the reactions. Here what we did, we take their catalyst, we put it into the cellulose matrix, then we perform the fluorination reaction. Look at this reaction went up to 21 days without any hygroscopic nature. We converted non-fluorinated into fluorinated molecules. 30 molecules have been converted. And this another interesting aspects of this material is recycling. Once your reaction is over, your cellulose matrix is available for reloading the catalyst. We did that 5 times, we have reloaded that. You can see that some of the known complexes which are published in one paper in Science and one Nature, these are catalysts reported. We took those catalysts, we mixed with the cellulose. Even you can look at that. Even those reported catalysts, we stand up to maximum 2 hours. And this material with the cellulose, we stand up to 21 days. And as I told, we converted many organic compounds into the fluorinated ones. Reusability, we demonstrated the reusability, see recovered cellulose, again ready for reloading the catalyst. There is a very simple experiment, but we need that for this has again revealed one of the US patent for this application. This is another interesting aspect. We developed the foam with the black titanium, which gives the photothermal efficiency much better than the normal. You can see that we combined, initially we mixed the titanium in the packed cellulose cell. We make a sponge, it is growing in the water. When you make the composite in a 2-layer way, it is supporting the bacterial cellulose is supporting the titanium to float on the water level. This gives the more thermal images when you analyze under IR. You look at the floating efficiency, and you can see the evaporation efficiency with the bilayer, 90% evaporation efficiency was observed. This has been demonstrated in 5 by 5 centimeters. This one, we took the wastewater from the garbage, then we put it in the container, we kept it in the sunlight. You see the purest water has been collected from the bottom. This is another application where we have functionalized the cellulose with the polyethylenamine to absorb the ionic dyes. Simple functionalization will lead to the almost 90% removal of the dyes. You look at that in a different composition ratio, 60 hours, 6 hours after, you can see the before treatment in the right corner. See the after treatment completely absorb the dyes. We did the complete analysis of those things, how it is. Then we checked that it has developed the antibacterial activity. As such, cellulose doesn't have any antimicrobial activity. Once it is functionalized, it starts showing the activity. As I was talking about the phloem, xylem appearance, you look at this simple observation has revealed one of the finest application which we are working on it. With the sorbitol base is giving a very uniform pores in a very straight line format, which has revealed the contaminated oil removal from the water. Look at that in the sorbitol base, the third image in the bottom. See that the complete water separates from the oil. Oil will be maintained on the upper surface. We make the filters, we fit it in the filter image and pass the oil water contamination. This is one of the composite we developed, which is last week only. It is unpublished kind of thing. I can just video is there. The composite having a one of the biosurfactant, it immediately if you touch it, immediately pull the water into the one corner. This has been demonstrated in a larger scale also. Now we are making it to the bigger pond size, about 500-liter pond with more than 20 to 30% oil contamination. This will be one of the best material to be used for the bioremediation, where the oil spillage is the biggest problem. As I told, the production industries are not interested in a static kind of fermentation. They won't keep for 15 days a static form and wait for the material to be produced. So here is the engineering aspects come from. I got one of the MTech student came to lab. I told this is the problem. Can you design some reactor? He designed a reactor. The reactor from the 15 days of fermentation static, we come down to 5 days in a reactor with the double the production. If I ask the wet material earlier, in 15 days we are producing 450 grams. After reactor design, we went to 750 grams in 5 days. So this is how the engineering aspects is to come with the biology people, where we can do the wonders. Again, we developed the nanocrystals from those things. Still a lot of applications are going on in this nanocrystals of material. This is the technology. Whenever we are doing COVID times, many people are looking for N95 mask, right? That time N95 mask, they are selling it around 700, 800, 900. It was so much demand was it. When we look at this material has the filtration efficiency, we thought, can we coat this material on a medical grade cloth? We simply coated simple household, like how you are doing washing, simply make the bacterial cell gel of 10%, take the medical cloth, dip it in the solution, dry it, autoclave it, sterilize material. Then we send for the all parameters to be approved for the medical grade mask. It qualifies almost all parameters required for the filtration as a mask, medical grade. It's qualified as 99.9% bacterial filtration efficiency. When you call N95, it was 95% bacterial. Here, this is N99.9. So the selling price of that material, when you transfer the technology, it was just 35 rupees. In Maharashtra, the startup company which they taken the technology has produced around 25 lakhs of masks during that COVID time. The second interesting application which we are working on, the wound care application by using the gel. I don't want to put a cost on drying the cellulose material. I want to use the material as it is produced in a wet form. You look at these are the gels available which are not of cellulose. These are chemically prepared gels. Look at the 318 rupees for a small 15-gram gel, and 400 rupees, 300 to 400 rupees an average for a small gels which are used for the wound applications. Then we collaborated with the SDM Harvard Medical College. We want to see that how it helps to the diabetic foot ulcer. We look at the India as one of the capital for the diabetic patient, and 30% of the diabetic patients in a lifetime goes for the diabetic foot ulcer. And diabetic foot ulcer is not curable. It is just manageable until you survive. 6 objects, we discussed a lot of discussion after that. They convinced that they want to test in the 6 objects, human objects, on a volunteer basis. This is the male patient suffering diabetic foot ulcer since last 3 years. There is no cure, just they are applying the ointment and managing it. So the problem is in the city, anyhow, you have a doctor facility, people will manage. How about the rural? Nobody knows what is the diabetic foot ulcer in the rural area. You look at after 2 days, we are not asked to change their treatment. Just we give the gel material, sterile material. You mix with your ointment in the cellulose gel. They applied it. You look at within 2 days, the new granule start appearing on the skin. You look at after 10 days, complete new skin has formed. And this is another case of a female since 8 months, she is suffering multiple wound ulcers. Look at the sign of improvement after 3 days. Even that case, you can see that after 10 days, the same case, after 10 days, you look at the complete healing of the wounds. This is the one of the complicated case where you can see that the sinuses have appeared on those things. Means there is no mass. You can pass the needle from these two holes to this big hole, the round circle one. So here what we did with the syringe, we just pump the cellulose material with the antibiotic which they are applying. Within 10 days, you can see the sinuses are completely closed down. The right corner, you can see that. This is the, sorry for this kind of images, but this is the reality of the diabetic foot ulcer. The another case, it is almost reached to the gangrene. If she left this gangrene for another 6 months, she has to amputate that leg, foot. Again, we applied it. Within 10 days, we can see that how it has been improved. Now, the biggest challenge in the diabetic follow. Whenever patient comes to the hospital, after treatment, they never come back. The follow-up is the biggest challenge in the diabetic. So now, based on this, here what we did the reverse engineering kind of thing. First we did the human trial, later went for the animal trial to understand what mechanism is doing it in the. We understand complete profiling in the we develop the diabetic wound models in the rats. So we understand that what are the mechanism and how it is improving. You can see that all biomarkers have been studied, how it has been upregulated and all. Based on this, the recently technology has been transferred, and within this month, we are going for a clinical trials of the 200 diabetic patients in the multicentric hospitals all over India. Come to the concluding kind of thing. Any good lab, you need to always I tell to the whenever I do, you should have two components. Without that, you cannot do any good science. Even you are any Nobel laureate also, the students are very much important for getting the Nobel Prize. So here is the human resource is the one of the biggest challenge for your school lab. So you are just a mentor, the ultimate rider are these are the students. Look at the phylogenetically, they are placed in a different place based on their work component. So these two students have submitted 3 synopses and they got a postdoctor in somewhere in the Europe. The first you have a good human resource. The next important component, what is the next important? You have a good student. What do you need? This is central facilities, you have a centralized facility. You need a money. You have good student, you don't have a consumables, what you will do? You play the rummy on the computer, right, with the students. So these are some of the projects which are generously supported by the CSR, EBT. So we have completed about 9 projects in last 5 to 6 years. So another 6 projects. Yesterday only I got a LPMR grant. There is one more direct grant. So we got it from the Bangalore startup that Fibro Hill Wound Care, where we are developing a hemostat based on the cellulose. Hemostat means whenever you do the higher organ surgery like liver, kidney, and all those, no, should not left out any threads when you take out, and blood should stop immediately there. When you cut those some organs, no, the clotting should happen very quickly. So this has shown some promising material. The moment you cut the organ, it stops the blood there only. So now we are developing that material for the hemostat. Nobody in India manufacture the hemostat. 1 by 1 centimeter of hemostat is costing around 1,700 rupees. Look at the 1 by 1 centimeter. This is one of the interesting aspects, what you call bread and butter of our research. This is one of the oldest culture collection which holds the industrially important microorganism. It was started in 1950 in Indian Institute of Science. Later on moved to the NCL, where we give all the industrially important cultures to the researchers all over from Jammu to Kanyakumari. This is one of, we have a state of art facility like that. We have a 2 doors like what we have this auditorium. You enter with the culture, exit with the product. You have a complete facility, and this is one of the happening culture collection in India. We have 2 scientists 5 technical staff, we generate 5 crore rupees lab reserve every year. This is consistent since last 12 years. And 60% of what we generate to the lab reserve come to the lab for maintenance of the equipment. These are the research labs where I started learning Department of Gulbarga, where I did PhD with my guide Professor Danan. Now he's the Vice Chancellor. I got a training in China on taxonomy, how to identify cultures with a complete structural illustration. Then I did the postdoc. These are the labs where I started my army. Started with a fellow scientist with the NIST Trivandrum, moved to oceanography. Now I NCL Pune. Thank you.
Now the session is open for the interaction.
Depend on the own side, how big your own is. If you apply even small only pattern, just to take a small pinch of the ointment, you apply it. The same way, whatever depend on the own side, you can take the ointment mixed with the cellulose material, you apply.
Is there a structural difference between static and shaking?
There is no, we validate that, no difference. So one of the interesting aspects that we want to keep the material open, because we are being told if I mix with any antibiotic, it will be very restricted. Right, the doctor, if you know one doctor, he will prescribe only gentamicin cellulose. The rest of the people will not recommend that. So that's why we keep that cellulose material as open. Let the doctor decide what antibiotic you want to use. It is a carrier material which holds the material for a longer duration. Whenever you apply the ointment, within 5 minutes you can see that the ointment is disappeared. But this material holds the ointment for a longer duration and it slowly releases when cells require.
The significance of measuring the mechanical properties of this, you showed that this DC is having some.
So mechanical strength in sense of stretchability. If I want to make it a film, it should not be so easily breakable. Should have hold on your skin for a longer duration.
So that is the
It depends on the different application. In a biological way, it has to be, you cannot apply for a months together. It has to be disappeared in a certain time period, right? But that has a different medical application. Those the mechanical strength, I didn't put that one. It is showing that I thought to bring that material, but it was my lab not allowed to take that material. It has a bulletproofing ability. We tested that one. It is, you cannot clear it out. 4 people that said like rope pulling kind of thing, we 4 people, this said they pull it, it never break. The moment I put that material in the water, within 10 seconds it will break down. So now the DRDO want to test that one as a jacket proof kind of.
Sir, you said we can use it as a storage. Can we use it for a fuel storage?
That has to be checked for it, because we are not expert that what is the requirement for the storage. Because the hydrogen is not so easy, because it has, you see the hydrogen bombs and all those, if you store it in one, it will be very devastating kind of thing. The idea of storage means, like when you go for fueling, petrol, store some petrol, right? Similar way, it has to be consumed also. You cannot store it for a longer duration.
So chlorine is harmful to human body, but chlorine.
Chlorine, when you take the chlorine, swimming pools, you take a swimming pool bath, you swim it, you feel the chlorine smell, right? Chlorine, you feel the chlorine smell, right? Certainly, everything is harmful. If you take it to during lunchtime, if you have taken double meals, it is harmful to the blood system, right? It has a limitations. Everything is harmful, but the best of your potential, it has to be utilized.
Sir, what is the molecular weight of, you are not discussing molecular weight of.
Because we are not interested in chemistry aspect, but it has somebody has done it, but we have not tested the molecular.
But it is also main criteria.
Yes. But bacterial cell, it is a long polymer, glucose in it is a continuous one. we cannot restrict that it has a this much molecular weight. It goes on a very infinity kind of glucose limits.
Sir. Data wise or the other?
This is the doctor which, again, I told, whenever you go to any doctor, they have their own prescription pattern. This is the SDM pattern that they have prescribed data. I think they apply it. If somebody want to check other antibody, that's why we told it is open. What we are clinical trial which is going in the, this one is open, but we give the only settlement. You apply what you are prescribed, because the prescription in Bangalore is different than the Maharashtra. Maharashtra is different than the Delhi. That's why you want to keep that as open.
How long can you keep it open, like in storage?
It's a normal story, you auto, that's why no advantage of this autoclave. Whenever you want to do apply it, you autoclave it, apply it. I it never tried. I kept in the lab when Meghna, you might know Meghna. She works in 2016. That material I kept in a fridge, still it is in the never tried. Means this material never tried until you want to try it.
Sir, I have a question that you have shown the drop collision test for the biosurfactant activity. It is a membrane thing you are holding in. Then what about the stability if it goes for lyophilized powder? Will it be same or the dynamics will be
We
same?
said lyophilized powder, the cellulose, initially we tried that one. Lyophilized powder sheet, if you make it as a foam, the moment you put it in the water, it disperses. That's why you want to make a stable sheet. The material biosurfactant which we have put in vector cell is a wet sheet, dipped in as biosurfactant that has been dried in an oven. That's why the surfactant has, because as I told, these are the pockets in the cellulose. This pocket, this biosurfactant goes and fits. That's why it has the ability. I even I not disclosed this biosurfactant. It is a novel biosurfactant. Look at the micro beauty. The structure is C95H190. The biosurfactant which we have discovered, the structure is C90H190. C95H190 is a fatty alkene. But the first time, why these microbes are producing this kind of in the fatty alkene? See, these are the wonders of the microbes.
Can we apply this in bioaugmentation and bioremediation?
Yes, now that whatever I have sheet shown, now we are making the cellulose rope.
But we require large amount of bacterial components to degrade the metals which were present in harmful.
We are not just degrading. See here, our main focus is for the oil remediation. If we pull the oil into the one corner, somebody can collect that oil. Then whenever ship spillage happens, a lot of microbial marine flora dies, right? What the people are, how the routine practice, they make a bigger ropes, the two boats from that corner, this corner, they pull the, what in Chennai happens, Chandra spillage happens, they pull the oil to the corner. But here you don't need to pull, just mix with the rope. You just put it in one corner, you automatically put it to the seashore. Yes. That's why it only got the oil, it separates the water. It spills the oil, not the water. It reduces the surface tension of the oil. Then we want to look at the environmental friendly. Reliance is running behind that surfactant for oil recovery, but we are not interested in the commercial end. We want to see the environmental friendly solutions.
Any more queries, we'll provide the email address. You can email your questions. Thank you very much for your informative talk on bacterial nanocellulose as a sustainable technological material. I now request Dr. Chandraprabha M. to give the memento to the speaker as a token of appreciation. Now request all the participants to be seated because the next session is going to start. Now we have with us the next speaker, Dr. S.T. Aruna. Dr. S.T. Aruna is currently working as a chief scientist at the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, National Aerospace Laboratory, Bangalore. She has a master's degree in chemistry from Mysore University in 1994 and she secured the first rank and won 4 gold medals. She obtained her PhD from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore in the year 1998. She worked as a postdoctoral fellow in the area of dye-sensitized solar cells from 1998 to 1999. She has authored 130 research papers in international peer-reviewed journals, 8 proceeding papers, 11 patents, co-authored a book, co-edited a book, and written 14 book chapters and 4 encyclopedia chapters. Her research papers have been well cited and her publications have an H index of 42. Her name features in the list of the top 2% of world scientists released by Stanford University in 2021. Her current research interests include the development of TED-Touch ceramic substrates for electronics applications, nanomaterials, plasma sprayed thermal and environmental barrier coatings, oxygen sensors, and reversible solid oxide fuel cells for hydrogen generation. She has many more awards to her credit. I welcome you, ma'am, on the behalf of organizing committee. Now I request Dr. Madhu sir to welcome ma'am with a bouquet. I request Dr. S.T. Aruna ma'am to take over the dance. A very good afternoon to all of you. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers and in particular Siddharth sir for inviting me over here. And it's a great pleasure for me to come to MS Ramaiah Institute of Technology because whenever I come here, I recollect me receiving the scholarship from Professor Dr. Ramaiah. So he was a philanthropist and he has really nurtured many young talents and I'm very fortunate to come here and present this talk. So I dedicate this talk to Ramaiah sir. So with this, I will start my presentation. So you all know that materials have played a major role in the evolution of mankind. And that is evident from the way we have named the eras, you know, Stone Age, the Bronze Age, the Copper Age, and so on. And now we are in the smart materials age. So today, like before I start my presentation, see, I cannot do any all this work, and every work has been done by several of my students and some of my colleagues who have played a major role. So I'm just showing you the contributors. One Dr. S.N. Kumar, who has done the major work, and Mr. Balaji and Mr. Shanti Swarup, and has the previous speaker has emphasized without money you cannot do any of this work, and so really we have to thank our sponsors and collaborators. We were very fortunate that we always received good funding from our parent organization CSIR and DST and Vikram Sarabhai Research Center, and we got good projects from industries like the Carbon Atom Universal Limited and Rotary Electronics Private Limited. So I am only presenting the work and the collaborators who have assisted this work, which I am going to present. So coming to my organization, as you know, CSIR has about 38 laboratories, and CSIR NL is one of the largest organization which was established in 1959, whose mandate is to develop aerospace technologies with strong science content, design and build small and medium-sized civil aircraft and support all national aerospace programs, including all the space programs. We help them in the acoustic test facility and the wind tunnel studies and so on. And coming to my division, I come from surface engineering division where we do a large number of coatings which are environment friendly and so on for mostly aerospace related technologies. And my group particularly, we work on the energy related coatings, even and also for space applications. So we know that we are organizing this event in collaboration with the Ceramic Institute of the Indian Ceramic Society, Karnataka chapter. So we all know that apart from just now, you heard a very enlightening and very interesting talk about the role of biomaterials, particularly so like microorganisms, right? So now you can see how ceramics are also playing an important role. You heard a previous speaker about the polymers and so on. So there are several kind of materials which are playing an important role in the improvements in the science and technology. Today we are enjoying the fruits of science and technology because of the advances made with respect to different technologies using these materials. So if you look at the ceramics, they are there everywhere. So they find lot of application starting from aerospace, chemical, electronics, energy, commodities, biomaterials, optics, so on. So there are a lot of applications one can foresee. So particularly my group at CSR NAL, we are working on the ceramics related to aerospace, then electronics and energy conversion, which I will be presenting. So ceramic market and all, I think due to lack of time, I will not go into the details. There is a lot of demand for the ceramics worldwide, and some of the top companies with respect to the ceramics is Kasaria Ceramics, Ceramache, Portstech, and China Ceramics Co Limited. So I'm just flashing this because I want to see that like we don't have many of the Indian players here. This is the conventional ceramics. If you look at the advanced ceramics, particularly advanced ceramics, we don't have Indian companies, and you can see that this market is going to grow from like at the compounded annual growth rate of about 8.1% in another few years, like another 4 years. Okay, so my focus is here, like how do I use these ceramics and make product? So I use a technique called as the tape casting, which is a very enabling ceramic fabrication technology, which started during 1947. So Glenn Hewart was the person who invented this material and is referred to as father of tape casting. So one can tape cast ceramics or any even metals, any of the material you can cast into tapes and you make useful products. So advantage of this method is that it's the best way to form large area, thin flat ceramic tapes or metallic parts, and you can make any kind of pattern you require on the ceramic. Like you want holes, you want some, for particularly electronics application, there is something called as wires which you can make. And once you filter that, you get very high dense ceramic components, and it is very easy to handle and machine, and no defects in the product. And it is a continuous and industrially viable and economic process. So some of the items produced with tape casting are like, you can see it's a wide array of materials have been made using this technology. It's a really old technology which has not become very popular in our country. So coming to the process, you can see this is a tape casting process schematic. So there will be a table, over that a mylar sheet. It can be either rolled, like the mylar sheet can move, and there will be a blade that is called as the doctor blade, and the ceramic slurry is poured in front of it, and either the mylar sheet will roll or the blade will move. Okay. So, and also on the table itself, you can have a heating process, facility, so that the tape gets dried and you can wind it, and you have the tape for processing your components. So here we will be using for making ceramic substrates or the electronics, which I will be showing in the later slides. So basically, there are two types of tape casting. One is using aqueous slurry, and another one is the solvent slurry. So basically, solvents are most preferred organic solvent because they dry fast, and your scale up will be faster. Like you can produce large quantities of the tapes at a faster rate. And basically, it will have solvent, a dispersant, a binder, and a plasticizer. The main recipe of how you prepare the slurry matters to control the thickness of your tape and also
the nature of the, whether you want very stiff or very, like you have a flexible tape, all these things depend on how you prepare the slurry. It is like your mother's some rasam recipe, okay? It's something like that. So some of the major applications of tape casting are like multi-layered ceramic packages, fuel cells, electronic substrates, solid-oxide fuel cells, and molten carbonate fuel cells. And there are a wide array of materials like the piezoelectric sensors, actuators, microphone discs, oxygen and NOx sensors. So this is a large number of applications. In my today's talk, I will focus on the ceramic discs for solid-oxide fuel cells, electronic substrates, and oxygen and NOx sensor. So first let us see what are ceramic substrates. We are all seeing the PCBs wherein it's the polymer PCBs, you know what is the material used. So instead of the polymer based materials, here we use these ceramics. Why ceramics? Because it has higher thermal conductivity and it can withstand higher temperatures, particularly in the space electronics. These substrates have to withstand the severe environments which the spacecraft encounters. So there's a lot of demand for using these ceramic substrates. Globally also there is a large demand for these substrates now because the whole there's a lot of revolution happening in the automotive industry. You know, the environmental regulations are becoming very stringent and all the automobiles have to be fitted with oxygen and NOx sensors, which again require these ceramic substrates. So and again, as I told, this why they are used in space electronics because they form a hermetic package is easy to make it, and also you can reduce the size of the whole electronic circuit into a smaller components. Here is one circuit. You can see this is from NASA. So basically, the requirement for ceramic materials to be used for electronic packaging application is that it should have low dielectric loss and it should have stable electrical properties apart from the other properties. So there is something called as a multi-chip module technology, which is widely used in the electronics industry in various things. So there are several classifications of this multi-chip module technology. One is L, which is called as a laminate, then is the D, deposition technology, thin film, and a ceramic that is called as the MCMC, which forms a thick film. So under this, there are two kinds of the chip modules made using the high temperature co-fired ceramics, which is called as the HTCC, and the other one is the low temperature co-fired ceramics, LTCC. So our emphasis is on the HTCC based ceramic substrates. So there are various substrates, as I told, like PCB is one, LTCC, HTCC, and the silicon. So here is the difference between their properties. The main important property is that these substrates doesn't, that water absorption is 0% and thermicity is very good. You can seal them very nicely. And coming to the most widely used ceramic substrate, it's alumina. Again, in alumina, there is 96% and 99.6%. All the space electronics, they use 99.6%. And some of the circuits which are used in, say, equipment like washing machines and so on, they use 96% alumina. So if you look at the key players in the ceramic substrates in the whole world, you can see that there were no Indian company before 2016 when we started this work. So we did this alumina substrate technology, and along with that, we also given the zirconia technology. And this substrates have properties that are at par with the commercial substrates. So this has been transferred to Carborundum Universal Limited. So we did the project within 1 year, but there was a delay from the company to set up the facilities. So we could only do in 2018. You can see here are the specifications and what we have achieved and what the imported substrates are. Like you can see, we have better edge finish. One is NAL side and another one is the benchmark sample. And there are no burrs or no peaks on the substrates. And the roughness is less than 50 nanometer on the alumina substrate. So this is a state-of-the-art tape casting facility which has been established by our industry partner. I would like to tell you here, like, when we started our work in our laboratory, we did not have a tape caster. We just made our own facility with just an investment of 1.5 lakhs. So it's a very small, like 2 meter tape we can do it, and we do it like one day I make a tape, next day I make, like, I don't make it on a, that is not the main objective. So when you go to industry, it has to be scaled up. So when they have an imported machine, I cannot use the same parameters what I used in my lab. You cannot just like translate it. It requires lot of understanding and solving the problems. So which we have successfully done, and you can see now today, if you go to the QB website, you can see that they are selling the ceramic substrates. So we are happy that we could contribute to one of the products made in India product, that is the ceramic alumina substrates, which is widely used in the aerospace, and they are giving this to ISRO for their space electronics applications. And in a continuation of this, like, we were making the green tapes and we were sintering them to make the substrates for the space electronics. So we had some collaborations with VSSC. So just like this, always it's good to come to the conferences or meetings and try to exchange, and during cup of tea, you may just spill over and talk that I'm doing this. So it so happened that when I was referring that we are doing ceramic substrate, they told, okay, we want the green substrates, particularly for making high temperature profile ceramics, will you be able to do it? So what exactly is done in HTCC? You will have a green ceramic tape, and over that you have lot of circuits printed, and you have lot of patterns also, and also wires are punched, and several layers. Each layer has several circuits. So all those circuits layers are then packed together, and then they are sintered. And you can see in the next slide, this is for the LTCC. So you can see that starting from powder, first you mix it, mill it, and you make the slurry, and then you tape cast it. Okay, once you get the tape, you cut it into the shape you want. Then you machine the tape. So it's so flexible that you can machine the pattern what you want. You can mechanically do it, or you can do the laser. And then you do something called as the screen printing. You use the conducting inks, and after that, then you start stacking them together, and then you just sinter it. After this lamination is over, so you can cut the unwanted parts and you can just sinter it, and this is low temperature, but we do it at 1500 degrees, and you get the circuit what you require. So this is the whole kind of process which is being done. So here, particularly ISRO was interested to use a different form of alumina, not the regular form of alumina. It's called as compensated alumina, because they wanted to modify the composition such that it has stable dielectric properties and it doesn't change over time and temperature. So I will not go into the details because this is some proprietary composition which has been made. So we have supplied these tapes, and we had to match the properties to imported tapes. They were getting all these tapes imported. So we have matched those properties, and we try to make the circuits. In the beginning, as usual, you will always have failures. We should not get disheartened by failures. So we have to take it, we have to learn from those things and move forward. So we had lot of issues. We had addition of the paste, and there was no proper addition and so on, which we solved. And even when you do sintering, you can see that it is over sintered in some of the places. And finally, we solved all the problems, and we have come to a stage now. We are making the substrates on a larger scale and testing them against commercial tapes. And there is another material called as aluminum nitrate, which is going to be the futuristic material. Currently, there is a material called beryllium oxide, which is used in microelectronics because of its high thermal conductivity. However, it is a carcinogenic material, so they want to replace beryllium oxide. So aluminum nitrate is a futuristic material. So they wanted again to make this aluminum nitrate tapes, which we have again made and sintered, and we have achieved the properties. So a continuation of this work is the oxygen and NOx sensors for automobile applications. Particularly all these exhaust, all these vehicle exhausts have to be tested for the emissions. Generally, you are seeing they're doing emission tests. And inbuilt, they can have these sensors which can give a message to the engine control unit and tell them whether it is oxygen rich or fuel rich, so that the fuel and oxygen ratio is adjusted so that you have complete combustion and emissions are less. So actually, we have some environmental norms called as the Bharat stage. So we were in Bharat stage 4. Government decided that we should not go to 5. Instead, we should jump to Bharat stage 6. So that by jumping so, like we have leapfrog, so all our environmental regulations will become stringent and all the vehicles have to have these oxygen and NOx sensors. So there's a company in Bangalore called Rotary Electronics Private Limited. So they approached us to make this oxygen and NOx sensor. Just to tell you what is this oxygen sensor, basically it is fitted near the exhaust. So it will sense the oxygen present in the exhaust with reference to the oxygen in the atmosphere. So this is again a multi-layered ceramic package, and which will here we are using a material called as zirconium, which is an oxygen ion conductor. Here basically the Nernst equation is used. So with reference to the air outside, and in the exhaust, there is going to be a voltage difference which is sensed, and if the output voltage is 0.2, it is lean mixture, 0.8 means it is a rich mixture, and if it is 0.45, then it is a stoichiometric ratio. So this message will be sent to the ICU. So there is something called as the NOx sensor. Here it's a little difficult technology here. Here we have to have some, first what happens is, just like the previous one, it takes from the reference, and after that the NOx, in the NOx, it will strip out the oxygen from that, and to strip that we have to provide the voltage. So, so it is like we are giving 400 millivolt, and then we are getting this thing. So this is little difficult technology. Again, we have tried to do this technology. Again, it is a multi-layered ceramic technology. So coming to the how the oxygen sensor stack is made, it is having 11 layers, and in one go we can make about 52 sensors on an 8-inch by 8-inch tile. We make it. So here you can see that, and one beauty of this sensor is that it works at high temperature, which is the exhaust temperature. Exhaust temperature is about 600, above 600 degrees. So it has to, within few seconds, the oxygen sensor has to sense the oxygen. So you have an inbuilt heater. So we have an inbuilt heater, and so that's why you have several layers of that. And I can show you in the NOx sensor, we have about 16 layers. So I can show you the design of our oxygen sensor, how we have made it. So it is total about 830 micron thick. So if you open it up, how does it look like? First, we have a porous layer so that exhaust air enters there. And we have a channel, air channel, where air from outside enters, that is the reference electrode, and which is about 400 micron channel. And we have a heater below that, so that the element becomes operational. It is an oxygen ion conducting. And this is the coil. So this is how the sensor is made. So after that, it has to be fixed in a mount. It is mounted, and then it is again coated with a catalyst, and then it is having a cap and all those things. You can see in this picture, like we have so many elements which are present here. All these things have been indigenously developed for this oxygen sensor. Except we have procured the starting material like the zirconia. All other things have been made in our country. So we have a joint patent with the company. anytime you make any product, we have to again compare with the benchmark sample. So here again, we have used a commercial sensor and we see that the properties are matching very well with that. And this has been tested at ARAI, Pune, which is a place where you get a certificate for, particularly for the automotive components, you have to get a certificate from there. So it has matched very well, and these are the things. And NOx sensor also we have made. Currently, the challenge is we are making the circuit, which is very difficult to make. So I think we are almost 75% done. So we are closely working with the industry. We also made an oxygen sensor for pilot life support system. This is for the defense, DRDO, which is having a different configuration. I will not go in much details. Again, we have good correlation with this properties with the commercial sensor. Particularly in the pilot life support system is very much important because if there is not proper oxygen in the cabin, the pilot will undergo a condition called as hypoxia. So he will really lose control of his thinking and accidents can happen. So it's very much important there. So we have a laser micromachining facilities for ceramics at our institute. Using this machine, we have tried to do this, particularly for the HTCC kind of work. To do that, we need really sophisticated equipments. We have tried to manage everything indigenously with the available facilities. So I just want to tell that we should not be thinking that we don't have facilities, we cannot do, but we can always try to find some ways of doing it. Just I want to convey this message. We should not be deterred that we cannot do it because we don't have facilities. Always you can try to see where it is available and then try to do some things we can do it ourselves. So this is actually I told that we have a ceramic heater inside the sensor. So this is called as the ceramic knife, particularly for the space applications. You know, when the spacecrafts are sent to the space, they have the solar arrays which are in folded conditions. They are folded using a Kevlar fiber. So once it goes in, within few seconds, the Kevlar fiber has to be cut and the solar arrays have to open up. So to do that, you know, something called a ceramic knife is used. So here again, we have used our ceramic technology to make the heating element. Within few seconds, it gets heated up and cuts the wire, Kevlar fiber. So coming to the last part of the work, like we are, like currently the world is facing a lot of problems related. How much time is there? 5 minutes, okay. So we have a lot of problems, particularly the whole world is looking for alternatives to the conventional fossil fuels, and waste management is another problem. And although we have made greater strides in the solar energy, but again the storage is going to be a big problem. And like, can we have these fuel cells and green hydrogen which can solve the future energy problems is a question. And we all know about the hydrogen mission of our country. So we have to really progress very much to reach those goals. About the 3.5 million tons of green hydrogen should be manufactured in at least 5 million metric tons of green hydrogen by 2030. This is the goal set for us. So will hydrogen be the next game changer? You all know the properties of hydrogen. Like if you combust 1 kg of hydrogen, it releases 3 times more energy than 1 kg of gasoline, and it emits only water. And the problem is hydrogen is not readily available in the nature. It is always found in the combined form. So there are several ways of making hydrogen, and particularly maybe somebody may be thinking, what is green hydrogen? Any doubts? Green hydrogen, what is green hydrogen?
Extraction from coal.
No. Actually, what is green hydrogen? Green here refers to, like, you use the naturally, this one, the renewable energy sources. If you use the electricity which is produced by, say, solar or wind energy, and use that energy for splitting water and producing hydrogen, then it is a green hydrogen. So there are different categories of hydrogen, and brown and black hydrogen is when we use the coal. Okay. So you can go, you can see these things later because I don't have time to go into those details. So green hydrogen is whenever you have renewable energy, use that energy and split water and get hydrogen. So actually there is a relationship between fuel cells and electrolysis. Electrolysis is nothing but fuel cells in reverse. Okay, in fuel cells what we do, we pass hydrogen and oxygen and you combine and get water plus electricity. In case of electrolysis, you supply water and electricity, you break water into H2 and O2. So this is the basics. So there are different types of fuel cells. Among them, solid oxide fuel cell is having higher power density and more advantages. So using this fuel cells, it can also work as an electrolyzer. So there are now alkaline electrolysis, polymer electrolyzers, and solid oxide electrolyzers. And alkaline electrolyzers are very well matured, and you have the megawatt level of plants available worldwide. And in India also there are few plants which they are trying to set up. And our sister laboratory, SICRI, has already developed the alkaline electrolyzer and the polymer electrolyzer. So coming to the solid oxide electrolyzer, it has better advantages. Because any technology you want to use it, you have to see that whether it is a viable technology, whether the raw materials are readily available. This is just a comparison. So if you like 24 hours of 1 terawatt of power provided by a solid oxide fuel cell would require just 1 month's worth of global zirconium production. Similarly, if you want lithium-ion batteries, 24 hours of 1 terawatt power generated using lithium-ion batteries would require lithium corresponding to 160 years of lithium production. And similarly, for PEM fuel cells, 24 hours of 1 terawatt of power provided by a PEM fuel cell would require 53 months worth of global platinum production. So if you see that in case of solid oxide electrolyzer of fuel cell, it is zirconia, which is abundantly available. So SOFC seems to be a viable electrolysis technology. So it can operate in both reverse ways. So, and also one more advantage is, we have the carbon dioxide is another problem which we have to really tackle. In case of this fuel cells, along with water, you can feed carbon dioxide also. You can generate carbon monoxide plus H2, which is the syngas. Which is a product used for the polymer industry. You can directly do that. So it is having a lot of advantages. So, and also like if you compare the PEM electrolyzer and the solid oxide electrolyzer using the same electricity, if you operate both, here you can get 30% less energy is required for the SOEC. So these are some of the advantages. However, the technology is not very well matured worldwide. Currently, people are working over that. So we also work on the solid oxide fuel cells. These are all the different materials which are used in the fuel cell. They are all again ceramic materials which are made in the laboratory. And these are all the single cells which are made, just like you have single cells in the batteries, and they are then connected in series and parallel. Here also we have to have, these are the single cells, and we have to stack them, and in between we have the interconnector plates. So currently we are developing this technology using the tape casting. We make the tapes of the cathode or the anode or the electrolytes. We stack them, and sometimes we use the screen printing, and we make, initially all studies are made in the coin cell, that is called as the button cell. And in case of batteries, they are called as coin batteries. Then only you go for the pouch level. So here we again do it on the a commercial scale, which is 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter. And these are the facilities available in our lab to do that. And we have made the commercial scale level of the single cells 10 by 10 centimeters square. Here we have two types of cells. One is the anode supported, another is electrolyte supported. Each has its own advantages and disadvantages. And some of these things we have made starting from powder. We have synthesized in the lab and made these things. And we have tested a small stack in our lab. And we have shown that 25 watt cell using the two cells stack we have done. And here one of the substrate is the YSD. This again we have given the technology to Carbon Atom Universal Limited. And the anode supported cell, we have given to two companies. One is the BT Ceramics Limited, and another one is Ilan Power in Bangalore. Now they are trying to commercialize these solid oxide fuel cells and make stacks and so on. Currently, we are working on reversible SOFC, wherein the same cell can be operated in power mode and the reverse electrolysis mode. So here we have to study the material properties. They should not degrade when we suddenly cycle it from power mode to the electrolysis mode. So we have just started this work, and these are all the some preliminary tests we have done by 5 centimeter by 5 centimeter cells, and now we have made 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter, and currently we are testing these cells. Particularly for this application, we need only 250 micron thick cells, and ceramics are very brittle, and it's very difficult when you have to stack them. You should not break. So currently we are working on these engineering aspects. Very relevant. You can see that here we have materials and engineering. So only when we work together only the products can come up. There is a need for proper engineering in all aspects of our research, and which is very much evident from this work what I have presented. So I would like to conclude like the CSIR has made a beginning in the indigenous development of ceramic tapes and for space electronics, alumina MIC substrates, properties we have achieved at par with commercial, and the commercialization has started in the country by QME, and we have developed a compensated alumina tapes for E0, and we are also trying to benchmark them with the commercial tapes. And in the future, we require the aluminum nitride, which we have done some work, but we need to make the HTCC tapes. And industrial production of oxygen and NOx sensor will bring in self-reliance, and I'm happy to tell that our industry partner in Bangalore is very proactive, and almost like now 80% of the equipments have been bought, and I think in another 2 to 3 months we'll start the production at Bangalore site. So I hope that will happen very soon. And finally, I would say like the imagination of design engineers in the future will undoubtedly lead to new and exciting applications for this technology. And industries work closely with research institutes. And it is very high time that everything we have to innovate in India and move forward and make in India a dream. It should not be a dream, it should become a reality. And I hope all the extras in this audience will definitely take our ambitions forward, and you will all play a major role in the self-reliance of our country and bring good laurels to our country. So with this, I thank my director, head, and my technical officers, project students, and sponsors again. So I thank you all for giving me this opportunity to present our work. I'm very happy if you have some questions, I can clarify.
The reproducibility of the material does not. But if you do other material, you have the same property, the reproducibility is the
So which material you are referring to? Sir, here the reproducibility will be very good because it's all done in a single shot we are doing. On a single plate, we will be having some 100 sensors are made at a time. It requires little optimization, like how you are laminating. There should be proper quality control, and every step is required. If you maintain the quality control, then reproducibility is good, sir. And before they dispatch these sensors, they do proper testing. There are several testing protocols which are done. And only if it clears that, only that will be sent out from the testing. Sir, particularly like these are all ppm levels, sir, 100 to 1000 ppm of NOx and. Sir, 1 lakh kilometers you can use this sensor.
In solid oxide fuel cell, what is the membrane you are going to use?
Sir, it is zirconia, sir. Yttrium stabilized zirconia, 8 more percent yttrium stabilized zirconia, which is cubic form of zirconia. Catalyst is lanthanum strontium manganate, and there are a large number of materials which we use, and particularly it's not a single material, we use a composite material basically we have to match the thermal expansion coefficient. Due to lack of time, I didn't go into the fundamentals of the solid oxide fuel cell. These are all operated at 800 degrees, and all these materials should have the cathode, anode, electrolyte should all have the same thermal expansion coefficient. So to match that coefficient, we cannot just take any catalyst. We have to add the electrolyte, whatever electrolyte we are using, we'll add that mixture too, so that we match. And also sometimes we may have a gradient of these layers.
No, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned about the ceramic knife, so to open the solar panel. What is the mechanism used to heat the ceramic knife?
Sir, there is a platinum heater, sir. We have a aluminum substrate. Inside we have the platinum heater which is printed.
Ma'am,
So you apply a voltage. It gets heated up.
Ma'am, in one of the slide you have mentioned about molten carbonate fuel cell, but you did not elaborate it.
Actually, there are different types of fuel cells. That is one of the types of molten carbonate fuel cells. In India, not many people are working on this molten carbonate fuel cells. It is like not become so popular. Nowadays, the polymer electrolyte fuel cells and the solid oxide fuel cells are more popular. In case of all these fuel cells are named after the membrane or the electrolyte. In that case, it is the molten carbonate which is used as the electrolyte. So there no, it is in liquid form. There are some leakage issues and also molten carbonate fuel cells, although for stationary applications, some megawatt level of plants are put up. I think only in one of the DRDO labs, they did some work on the molten carbonate fuel cells. Otherwise, not much work is done in our country.
No, last one. You were telling about this ceramic sintering. How will you do the sintering?
So basically, we have to do first a dynamometry. We have to do dilatometry studies have to be done, and you will always know many of these materials. You know the melting temperature, so you should always use little less than the melting temperature to get the sinterability.
What are the equipments? Any equipments?
No, furnace is required for this, and particularly for fuel cell applications, we have to measure the conductivity of your electrolytes, and also the impedance analysis has to be done. Once you make a single cell, you have to measure the area-specific resistance. For that, you need an impedance analyzer, just like what you use in batteries and this thing. Generally, they say fuel cell is similar to your battery. In your battery, all the chemicals are stored inside. In fuel cell, you have to provide from outside. So whatever you use there, here only these are all ceramics. So you use high temperature sintering furnaces for getting that. And during sintering also it's a challenge because you have to have proper load and all you have to control. Otherwise, they will become your chips. So it's a challenge to optimize those conditions. You have to have a perfectly flat things. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I request Dr. B.M. Nagusan, sir, to present a moment to ma'am as a token of appreciation. Now we have tea break for 10 minutes. I request all the participants to assemble back here after 10 minutes for the last session.
and Special Purpose Equipment, CMTI Bangalore. She obtained her PhD from Anna University, Chennai in the year 2009. She has completed various granting aid projects as well as sponsored projects from several organizations like DST, DRDO, DE, and so on. Dr. Kavita is the recipient of Professor G.S. Tendulkar Award from Powder Metallurgy Association of India for her research work on syndrome studies in the year 2010. She is also awarded with CSIR Research Associateship in the year 2010. Dr. Kavita is conferred with Institution Prize for the year 2017 by Institution of Engineers, India. She has authored a monograph on yttria dispersed 9-chrome martensitic steel by mechanical alloy. Along with this, she has authored many research papers and also added a few patents to her credit. Dr. Kavita received the Certificate of Outstanding Contribution in reviewing in recognition of contributions made to the quality of Journal of Environmental Chemical Engineering, presented by the editors of Journal of Environmental Chemical Engineering, Netherlands. She is a life member of many professional bodies. With this brief introduction, I now request Dr. Kavita to the dais, and I request Dr. Nagaraj Kuttum to welcome her with a bouquet.
Good evening, one and all. I have some problem with my throat, so maybe it's not my usual voice. So just let me know if if I'm inaudible. So at the outset, I would like to thank the organizers of ICM MES 2023 for giving me this opportunity to present myself before the audience. And I thank Director CMJ for allowing me to come and make my presentation here. So I once again would like to thank the organizers because I'm going back to 2009 when I made this presentation for my PhD while overseas. So basically I have worked, if you see as a scientist, I'm working more on process technology development, and my profile will not suit this, though I work on advanced materials too for certain electronics packaging applications. Since I've already made the presentation in MSRIT a year back, I think. So I thought I would give this full presentation of mine on development of oxide dispersion strengthened materials for high temperature energy applications. So I go ahead, and basically this entire presentation is on the development of materials that are used for fusion as well as fast fission reactors. So basically there are materials which go for the in the case of fast fission applications, you have the reactor assemblies which has the fuel pin assembly, they basically tell, which is you have the fuel pins wherein you are adding the fuels into these pins for them to undergo burnup. And in the case of fusion reactors, it is used for as I mean the blanket, they call it as blanket modules. So this particular material is used in such kind of assemblies in fast fission as well as fusion applications. So as we all know that India has been the major contributor towards materials in the case of ITER. I hope all of you are aware of ITER, which is there in France. This international test experimental reactor, they are going to they are in the process of establishing one of the best reactors, which is actually, I mean, it is more environmental friendly reactor too, and the materials that go into this reactor are more environmentally friendlier than the existing reactors. So basically, India contributed 20% towards this particular project, which is presently in France. And then I think it is only with respect to the materials technology we have contributed to this particular international project. So I had the opportunity by Almighty's grace to work for my PhD on this particular material. And as we are whatever I'm going to speak about these kind of materials are basically for generation 4 nuclear energy systems. So we are now moving towards generation 4 and basically we have not yet moved towards generation 4 is what I would say. So based at that point of time, austenitic stainless steels were the structural materials which were used for these kind of reactors, followed by ferritic magnetic steels and vanadium alloys and ODS ferritic steels, as well as silicon carbide composites. So if you see a decade ago, this was the status, and I think ferritic magnetic steels are now being extensively used, and the vanadium alloys, proof of establishment, proof of principle, as well as silicon carbide also, proof of principle has been established. So if you go to the ODS ferritic steels, earlier these ODS ferritic steels were actually manufactured extensively by Japan as well as companies in US, and you still have commercial alloys available under the ODS ferritic steels. And presently, the move is more towards, is what I understand, is the move is more towards ODS ferritic steels, because the high temperature applications of high temperature properties of these particular materials are really very good. And I have the opportunity of going and presenting one of the offshoot of this particular work in IGCAR in the year 2020, I suppose, early 2020. But they also asked me to work, though I have worked on the density steels, they have asked me to work on ferritic steels. And I think now more and more ferritic steels are used in this sector. So what is going to be the advantages of these kind of materials is steels, ferritic magnetic steels is the well-developed technology, which is already established, and the resistance to radiation-induced swelling and helium embrittlement. And you have a range of design options because you have the well-developed manufacturing technology, and the development of low activation versions is possible using these kind of ferritic magnetic steels. So when I tell ferritic magnetic steels, this basically has 9 to 12% chromium in it. And the key feasibility issues are the neutron irradiation of the ferritic steels. There will be a shift in the ductile to brittle transition temperature, and this results in the integrity of the structural component, loss of the integrity of the structural component, and as well as the energy conversion efficiency. So modified 9-chrome moly steel is being qualified by Section 3 of ASME Code Case 947. And this basically led to the development of the reduced activation versions of the ferritic magnetic steels. And basically what they have done is they substitute tungsten for molybdenum, and vanadium and tantalum for niobium, silver, nickel, moly, nitrogen, and copper. So this led to the development of a new class of steels, which is basically more environmentally friendly than the existing ferritic magnetic steels. So this resulted in the smallest shift in ductile to brittle transition temperature and upper shelf energy on irradiation of these steels. So as of now, as I have said, these are the only technologically advanced option for our nuclear sector to move, because other are all in the embryo level as far as India is concerned. So The only way in which you could improvise the energy efficiency of these steels by using an oxide dispersion strengthening, which increases the temperature limit of usage between 650 to 700 degrees. And the most important thing is, because you are dispersing the oxides into these ferritic martensitic steels, the corrosion resistance of this steel is also going to get better, and the oxidation as well as the corrosion resistance. So this was my entire PhD thesis was sponsored by under DST Women Scientist Scheme, and I owe to DST to what I am today. It started with the indigenous synthesis and development of ODS 9 chrome 2 tungsten ferritic martensitic steels by mechanical alloying. And initially it started with the oxide, that is the synthesis of nanocrystalline yttria, and the mechanical milling of the metal precursors, and optimization of the alloy powder synthesis by mechanical alloying, followed by alloy powder characterization, compaction of ODS alloy powders, and characterization of the compacted samples. So this synthesis of discosoid started when I was an MSc student. I was working in PhD Tech, and basically I did my summer research work as well as my final year project in IGCAR Kalpakam. So we developed an eco-friendly and eco-economical soldier process, and these are the TM microstructures, and where we could see the synthesized material in the size range of 50 to 100 nanometers. And we could see there is a bimodal size distribution of material, and the grain size was somewhere around 20 to 40 nanometers, and the purity of the synthesized powders were also established. So we started with the powders of iron, rhodium, tungsten, titanium, vanadium, manganese, silicon, carbon, nickel, and moly, and together with the synthesized yttria. And we used electrolytic grade iron, and particle size less than 150 microns, and bulk charge ratio was 10:1, and the process control agent was 1% stearic acid. So this is the way in which the milling happened, mechanical alloying happened. We had used planetary ball mill as well as saturator, as well as double cone blender in order to establish the commercial processing of these materials also, and followed by the process optimization and characterization of the ODS alloy powders by XRD, SCM, particle size analyzer, as well as TEM. So this is the Risch planetary ball mill. I think all of you must have seen, and these are the parameters which we employed. And we employed we did entry addition right at the commencement of milling, and we used 10 mm diameter high carbon steel balls, and the capacity was around 800 grams, because we used 4 containers, and the duration of milling we had to optimize. And the addition of yttria, not at the commencement, it happened at the final 5 hours of milling. So these are the SEM of the ODS alloy powders at 200 RPM. Usually it was done at 200 RPM the milling, and this shows the milling of the cold welding of the particles, and then the fine agglomerates, and as well as the bimodal size distribution in this as well. So these are some of the how the milling takes place, powder at 35 hours and at 40 hours, where you can see the particle breakup and lamella formation too. And again, at 3 hours, uniformity in final particle size distribution, all were around less than 1 micrometers, and the narrow size distribution of the alloy powders. So here I am speaking that we are continuously, the alloying also happens, as all of you know, that it is a PM route, and it is mechanical alloying through which this alloy powders we have developed. So this is a X-ray diffraction pattern which we have achieved, which is shown here, and here you can see all the constituents have gone into iron, and by the equation we could calculate the grain size between 10 to 12 nanometers, And the SCM of the ODS alloy powders is also given here when we are carrying out at 300 RPM. Here also it is flattening of the powders as well as the progressive nature of alloying, which starts with particle deformation, flattening, fracture, cold welding, as well as agglomeration. All are shown in these micrographs. And again at 300 RPM, the formation of solid solution was confirmed. And since because individual alloying elements were not observed, the formation of solid solution happened at 10 hours of milling, and then we have optimized that. And similarly, the same thing was repeated in iterative milling also, and these were the process parameters. And this is how the alloy powders were synthesized using an iterative mill. And these 10 micrographs shows the lamellar formation as well as the agglomeration and breakup of the particles to 50 microns as well as to 25 microns at 10 hours, flattening and further breakup at 20 hours and lamellar formation agglomeration at 30 hours. So this is how I think here it is clear that basically it is actually agglomeration of the powder particles because you energize the particles and you break them and ultimately agglomeration of these particles happen. So we have also done a double cone blender also. So so for one batch we could get around 300 tons of powder charge, and the milling duration was established between taken up between 5 to 24 hours. And here we could feel that the dissociation of vitrea happened at 20 hours because the XRD pattern indicated the and the formation of ferrite phase happened at around 20 hours, and the grain size was around again 90 nanometers. So these are some of the SCM of the ODS alloy powders through double cone blender, and they showed the irregular size and shape as well as particle breakup and flattening as well as regularity in morphology. So the size range was again 10 micrometers, and some of the particles were as small as 1 to 3 microns and 50 microns at 20 hours. So rebuilding of the particles happened, and subsequently minimum size distribution for 25 hours of double cone blending. So for small scale synthesis, the optimized parameters was 15 to 20 hours of planetary ball milling at 300 RPM. And for bulk preparation using a double cone blender, it was 25 hours of milling at 40 RPM. So these are the energy dispersive analysis using X-rays in an SCM. So the purity of the powders produced via mechanical alloying has been established. As you can see, you do not find any other impurities. And if you see the particle size analysis, there was tendency towards agglomeration and addition of ceramic area. With the 20-hour mill alloy powders indicate narrow size distribution of the particles. So we could find that this is 20 hours. The first one is 20 hours with yttria and 15 hours with yttria and 15 hours without yttria. You can see the tendency towards agglomeration of the particles on addition of ceramic yttria. So the in the nanometric range, the particle size has been shown here, and so this is a TEM micrograph of the ODS alloy powders, and the spotty ring pattern indicated the grain size in the nanocrystalline region. This is for the third one shown down, and the results are in confirmation with the XRD, SCM, and particle size analysis. This is of the ODS alloy powders which we have done. Then later comes the consolidation of these alloy powders. So we tried 5 different routes: cold pressing followed by sintering, cold pressing followed by vacuum sintering, and hot pressing, and cold isostatic pressing followed by hot isostatic pressing, and finally hot isostatic pressing. So 5 different methods were established, compaction methodologies, and this is how we have taken up vacuum sintering as well as sintering, and for this duration, and for furnace cooling we have done, air cooling we have done, quenching we have also done. So these are the product details with respect to cold pressing. So we could find that the apparent density was 1.44 gram per cc and 0.68% of kenolube was added as a additive. And it was pressed using the Deva, I think it's a Korean made press, and we could get only 82% of the electrical density. And as I have said, we have gone ahead with vacuum sintering as well as sintering. So these are the pictures of the cold press compacts, and substantially uniform two-phase microstructure was found in these compacts, and lower fraction of the second phase has been observed. This is some of the IDAX of the cold compacted and the vacuum sintered samples, and it confirmed the presence of all of the elements, which we could tell that uniformly all of the elements were distributed. And this is yet another, and we could also observe some tungsten-rich precipitates in the matrix. And as you can see from the IDAX mapping, here in few of the areas, tungsten-rich precipitates were also found. And this is the cold compacted sinter and the furnace cooled specimen, because this is not going to add much of importance. I'm just going on with the slides. So this is yet another where we could see some, in the previous one, we could see some observation as chromium rich second phase as well as chromium depleted matrix in the vicinity of the second phase also. So, this is again in the presence of tungsten, we could see the presence of yttrium also. And regions with depletely and moderately higher chromium content also is shown in the IDAX mapping. And this is the cold compacted sintered and alcohol specimen. So this the composition as we have taken is reasonably corresponding to the starting composition. So, and what we could establish from all these IDAX is during any of these processing, there are no impurities that go into the composites. And and depending upon the why we wanted to do all these things is we wanted to see how these composites could be easily, basically it's the nano composite what we are talking here, because you have the nano dispersoid yttria here. And then we wanted to see in what way we could achieve the highest theoretical density. So here again you have the mapping of the composite, cold compacted one, and where we are finding tungsten, vanadium, yttrium, and titanium together in certain regions, if you can see. So this is the sintered and one specimen. This also reasonably corresponded to the starting composition. And here also yttria was present in the vicinity of the tungsten. And see the micro hardness values also were recorded at 50 grams load, and the presence of chromium rich carbates as segregation in the is established. So I would like to thank you, Professor Vikram Jairam, who helped me in hot pressing of the samples and at IIC Bangalore. And this is how the hot pressing happened, and that was hot conduction followed by heat treatment at 1070 Kelvin for 180 minutes, followed by furnace cooling, air cooling, and quenching. And these are the process details. And here I think now still the press, I think it is not working press, but I think it is still there, whatever I have worked long back. And these are the process details. And this was the specimen, and we could achieve here 96.73% theoretical density and a hardness of 235 BHM and 50 grams of load. So the as received hot compacted specimen as well as the heat treated specimens also. These are the IDAX. Wherein in the case of hot compacted specimen, a slight variation from the starting composition was found, and we could observe regions with varying concentrations of chromium. And again here we could see yttrium was present along with tungsten. And in the furnace cooled vacuum hot compacted specimen, there was a slight variation from the starting composition, not like the cold compacted samples. And The furnace cooled vacuum compacted specimen showed two-phase microstructure with uneven distribution of the second phase, and the regions were moderately rich and depleted in the chromium content. And the concentration of tungsten was lower in the regions with moderate chromium content, and lower concentration of titanium and vanadium in chromium depleted regions, and vice versa has been reported. So here again, you had variations with the chromium content as you are seeing in the micrograph. And yeah, so let me move ahead. And we also tried by consolidation by cold isostatic pressing followed by hot isostatic pressing. And I thank DMR Hyderabad for supporting this activity. And this is how the process. We added binding material and followed by cold isostatic pressing, and without binding material and followed by final hot isostatic pressing. But we could not achieve best results, and as you can see, the compacts were not very good, and so we did not go ahead with this, and there was a lot of other issues in the processing, so we did not follow this route. But I think there was a pore-free microstructure with some of the segregations, and here again the elemental purity of the ODS specimens after sipping and hipping we could establish, and we could also find regions rich in yttrium in the vicinity of the segregations, and but we could get the substantially uniform distribution of the constituents after sipping as well as hipping. And the HRCM also was in confirmation with the SCM observations, and more solutionized microstructure. This one shows a more solutionized microstructure, and the desired starting composition of the ODS alloy after consolidation we could achieve through this route. This is after 15 hours of powder processing, and this is all for 15 hours powder process samples. That is mechanically alloyed samples. And here again, we could see chromium with second phase and chromium depleted matrices in the vicinity of the chromium with second phase. So again, the concentration of the tungsten was higher in regions with moderate chromium than chromium regions, and the chromium rich regions with higher titanium in comparison to the depleted regions. I'm sure a lot of literature is available on the presence of precipitates of tungsten as well as titanium in ODS steels and ODS steels. And these are the TM of the SIP and HIP compact. So here you could also see the yttrium dispersed in the matrix. Yeah, you can very well see you see the gray areas, right? So this shows the presence of yttrium dispersed in the matrix alone. So with 20 hours of CI cold isostatic test, hot isostatic test, it show normalizing at 22 kelvins for 1 hour, and followed by air cooling showed a more solutionized structure. And it was recommended at that point of time to go for prolonged heat treatment schedule to aid complete solutionization. And here again, this is 15 hours mill sipped, heat normalized and reheated specimen. The bright spots again high concentration of yttrium and lower fraction of the second phase. Here, second phase indicates the chromium. So equal distribution of bright and dark regions were observed, and finally we go to consolidation by hot isostatic pressing. And this was also done at DMR Hyderabad. You put the powders, you charge the powders into containers, stainless steel containers, and it was directly hot isostatically pressed. And we could achieve 97.25 theoretical density, and the hardness values are given below. And these are the photographs of the specimens, and as you can see, I'm not sure whether you'll be able to see. This is with the outer stainless steel, because you can see the brighter exteriors, and we were able to extract specimens for tensile tensile strength also, as well as for microstructure. And to do the cutting, and as I have said, SS capsules were evacuated at an the ambient, and it was hotly gassed and krill sealed with a blank vacuum of 5 into 10 to the power of -6 torr and 1373 Kelvin and 110 MPa pressure, and the boiling time was 2 hours. At 1373 Kelvin, it was actually hot isostatic compressed, and the heating and cooling rate was maintained as 10 degrees centigrade per minute. So here we could get a two-phase microstructure. Here you can see how nicely the microstructure with uniform distribution of the second phase. And it again matched with the design starting composition of the ODS alloy. And there's a fine distribution of the value with second phase in the matrix. And the mechanical property evaluation, short tensile specimens we could extract from the hot isostatic vapor specimens, and heat treatment was carried out at vacuum at 1173 Kelvin, 1223 Kelvin, and 1273 Kelvin with a soaking time of 1 hour. And the UTS was around 244 MPa, 207. The percentage elongation was 2.5 to 3.05. And you can see the fracturness of the hip ODS alloy specimens. And you could see the ductile fracture with dimples, and with increase in temperature, there was increment in the dimple size. And we could observe progressive softening. There is the effectiveness of the heat treatment. That is why we had initially said that prolonged heat treatment could give better values. Sorry. Yeah. So we could successfully synthesize ODS 9 from alloy powders by mechanical line of the starting from the elemental precursors, and we could optimize the bulk production as well as the small scale in terms of ODS 9 from printing magnetic skills. And we could successfully compact the ODS powders employing various powder formation techniques, and detailed characterization of the compacted samples also we were able to establish. And the evaluation of the preliminary mechanical properties of the compacted specimens. I have completed my PhD in the year 2008, and Midani was able to, I had presented part of my work in NMD 2007, and in NMD 2009, Midani was able to come out with tubes made up of these materials, and I think they are being used in Algica Kalpakam, which is why they had suggested because I have the materials with me, and I had tried electron beam welding of these materials here in CMTI. And when I went with the project proposal, they wanted me to, because they were already using these 9 chrome variants in their power plants. They were telling me, why don't you switch on to the 12 chrome ferritic steel version? We would be interested more on that, because developing a material and performance characterization of the material will be the second one. So during performance characterization, they have found that because all these materials will be irradiated, and there will be a separate group working on the extraction of these materials also. So in the case of 9 chrome martensitic ferritic martensitic steels, it was very difficult to revive the materials back after irradiation. So in the case of 12 chrome, I think there was an established methodology which was good enough for them to revival of these materials. So, but unfortunately, if you see, it's almost 3 years we start and we establish for 12 chrome, and the literature was also was not promising for the use of 12 chrome, though IGCAR wanted only 12 chrome. So I could not take up that work, and basically development of the material, and then followed by the process development for electron beam welding also will take much of time, so I could not take up. So I hope I again once again thank Director CMJ for giving me this opportunity, as well as the organizing committee and my advisors, mentors at IGCAR, PhD Tech, NIST, and CMTI, and DST New Delhi for for funding this particular work. and all my student friends who worked on electron beam welding of these materials also. And while I was doing my PhD, so a few of them, BE as well as MTech students were also involved in this work. I would like to thank them. And as well as the head powder processing group DMR Hyderabad and his group members, Professor Vikram Jairam, ISC Bangalore, and Recall Coimbatore, who helped in core compaction, and Ms. Trivandrum from Sound Powder Characterization, and Dr. Kumaran, NIT Trichinopalli for supporting the equipment. So move on. Thank you and welcome.
We have few questions. How old is this work which you presented here?
Yeah, it is, I completed in 2009. Yeah.
After that, any development took place or you or your group is working on this?
No, sir, no.
Actually, what is the most important part in this mindful work is that you could have to compare with candidate material, what we have people are whole equipment management, then we have operating skills, then micromanagement, then ODS, then reform, and now it is RAS.
Yes.
I would like to see that where your ODS micro stands in this category.
That is what, I'll just explain
With
this.
respect to mechanical as well as nuclear purposes, where we like to say that the burnout or the irradiation. And I would like to select you that no material, whatever it may be, cannot be reverse fluids or another position after the line.
No, sir, disposal.
Because irradiation is a irreversible.
Right, sir, right, sir. I am telling disposal. 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 In IG car, there is a unit which works on disposal. For 12 chrome, they have established in the 9 chrome, they were difficulty in disposal, sir. So they wanted me to work on 12 chrome ferritic steels rather than 9 chrome. So if I have to work on 12 chrome, there must be electron beam welding related with respect to 12 chrome ferritic steels, which I did not have the literature in 2020, wherein I have presented. So I was, and you know how much of effort it goes towards establishing the compaction methodologies too. So basically, sir, we wanted to work on, at that point of time, we wanted to work on only 9 chrome steels. And I think 9 chrome steels, whatever, there was a joint project which was happening between ARCI as well as IGCAR. And because ARCI and IGCAR was involved, Nidani came into picture. So I understood in 9 chrome ODS steels, seamless tubes were presented in NMD 2009, and I had presented this work in NMD 2007. So the seamless tubes were used in the furnace assemblies in IGCAR Kalpakam, and they have done some kind of waste disposal studies too. And they have found out that 12 chrome steels, the process was established and it was recommended by the IGCAR people. So that is why they wanted me to work on 12 chrome. But 12 chrome, even my coordinator in IGCAR, whom I was associated with, he had some kind of apprehensions whether 12 chrome we will be able to really process, because getting the solutionized microstructure is very difficult in the case of 12 chrome, is what the literature tells. So 9% of chromium, though I had the material and I have even done some kind of electron beam welding, so which is why I wanted to go ahead with the project, but that didn't materialize. Yes. That is only with respect to nuclear waste disposal, not retrieval. Understood, sir? I maybe word it wrong. But still they are interested, sir. That way.
It's difficult. See,
That's what, sir, only in fuel assemblies or those kind of areas, these are used. Any other question? Thank you.
Thank you, madam. I now request Professor Bharat Bhushan, Professor Emeritus Department of Mechanical Engineering, to present the token of memento to Dr. Harris.
So when I could do when I was 25-year-old, I think you could do much better. And now, when I started my PhD, the opportunities were very less. And probably CSR as Sarah for JRF and was the only opportunity for doing PhD at that point of time. But now there are so many fellowships when I had started my journey as a research fellow, there was only one system with internet facility, and we used to juggle, and we used to morning 9 o'clock we used to come, and night 9 o'clock I used to go home because seniors would also be there, right? So I think you have a lot in your hand, and of course you should be able to do better. Okay, all the best to all of you.
Thank you for the inspiration, madam. So we have come to the end of day one, the Icames 2023. I kindly request everyone who's presenting oral presentation tomorrow to assemble at ESP level 4 in the designated classrooms tomorrow by 9:30 a.m. Thank you.